Howdy! Welcome to part 2 of my Haunted Mansion books special. I don't really have much else to say. If you've watched part 1, then all the same spoilers apply. Obviously spoilers for the books, and discussions of morbid topics like death and, going insane. And this video is already going to be very long, so I'm just going to get right into it. So the third book is actually pretty different from the others. So the other books all have the through line of the fearsome foursome. Specifically Willa is very important to them. But in the third book, they don't even mention the fearsome foursome, as far as I can remember. They at least never show up and are never mentioned by name. Instead, it focuses on these three thugs. Well, not really thugs, but they're kind of like the wet bandits, basically, from Home Alone. Just like very stereotypical, hey, forget about it. I don't really know the word. I'll think of it eventually. But anyway, so the main one is Declan Smythe, who just got out of jail on good behavior, which he thinks is really funny. And he ends up inviting himself to work with his old colleagues Marge and Pascal, who are doing a relatively honest job of doing deliveries. And the delivery that they're making today is they got a bunch of packages and they have to deliver them to the haunted mansion. But they don't know it's haunted because, of course, they don't. Even though the map that they were given was a piece of dead human skin that was tattooed on. But they don't realize that it's human skin, except for Declan, because he's actually killed people. Or at least it's implied that he has. But, Marge and Pascal have no idea. And Declan doesn't really care enough. He's just like, hey, if we go to the mansion, we can steal a bunch of crap. I'm gonna steal a whole lot of cheddar from these rich folks. So they go to the mansion, and they're in the unloading area for the truck is this giant dark cavern, and they can't really see much except for a freaking labyrinth of shelves full of crates and stuff. And there's stuff banging on the crates and trying to get out, and they're freaking out. And then Amicus Arcane shows up and he's like, hey guys, so I heard you got my packages. And they're like, yeah, haha. And he's like, okay, cool, I'm gonna show you where to unload them. So he takes them out of there, and the first room they go to is the music room, where they unpack a piano. And Declan's like, it's just a piano? That's not valuable at all. That's so lame. Bleh. But Marge is like, this is so cool. I used to play piano when I was a little girl. And Pascal is absolutely smitten with her the entire book, and he's like, well, I'd like to hear you play sometime, Marge. And she gets all flustered, and it's very cute. But then Declan's like, bleh, get a room, you two, you suck. Because he's the worst. But then Amicus is like, hey, you guys want to hear the story of this piano? And they're like, I guess we have to unpack it, so it's not like we can really stop you. So he tells them about the piano. And it's from a school, and the most popular student at that school was this little shithead named Toby. Or Tobe. It's spelled T-O-B-E, and I've never been 100% sure if it's Toby or Tobe, but I'm gonna call him Toby, because I like it more. Anyway, Toby is the most popular kid at their school, because he's so good at piano that he's the only thing putting them on the map at all, because their school sucks at everything. But he's really good at piano, and he plays at a concert with a song that he supposedly wrote. But he gets called out by this really shy girl named Genevieve. And she isn't even mean about it. She's just like, I don't think you wrote that song. Or maybe you took inspiration from this other song, but it sounds a lot like this song that our music teacher wrote before she died. And Toby did in fact, steal a song that their music teacher had written, basically immediately as soon as she died. If I remember right, he was like the one that found her body, and instead of like freaking out or being traumatized by a dead corpse of one of his teachers, he just like, oh well, and then he steals like the music that she was writing, and he passes it off as his own. So when Genevieve, like, very, very politely, like, calls him out on it, and, like, not even, like, how dare you do this, she's like, I'm sure you didn't mean to do it, but maybe you just, like, took inspiration, and she's basically just wants him to acknowledge that their music teacher had written the music. She doesn't even, like, she doesn't want to ruin him or anything, she just, she was very close to their music teacher, and she wants her music teacher to get credit for the thing that she did. But Toby, says nuh-uh, and he, like, accuses her of being a bully. She's like, ew, you're harassing me! She's harassing me, she's a bully! So then the entire school hates her guts, and she gets, like, ostracized, and, like, and Toby is like, haha, another day, another sleigh. Don't mess with the king. You mess with the king, you best not miss. But he goes home that night, and he, like, starts hearing the piano music that he had stolen, just playing from somewhere, and he's like, what the fuck? But he tries to ignore it, but he can't. But eventually it stops for a little bit. And then he goes to school the next day, and it starts playing during class, and then during lunch, and, like, all day at school. And he has no idea what's going on. He thinks that he's being pranked by Genevieve as, like, a revenge plan or something. But it's starting to drive him insane, because no matter what he does, he can't stop hearing it. Like, he blocks it, like, he puts on headphones, he, like, tries to drown it out with, like, television, he puts cotton in his ears, and nothing works. He can still hear it, like, perfectly clear. Like, as if it were, like if there was, like, a tiny piano in his ear, like, playing it. And eventually, he figures, like, okay, I think it's coming from the basement in the school where the music teacher's old piano is being kept, during the investigation to find out how she died. So he sneaks down there with some bolt cutters to try and destroy the piano. And it's playing itself. It's not a prank. It's being played by the ghost of his music teacher, who he stole from after she died. And he's like, nope, fuck this, and he destroys the piano to the best of his ability. And then the music stops, and he's like, sweet release. And just as he's about to leave, the music starts again, and he whips around, and the piano has fixed itself, and then the music is even louder than ever, and he just completely snaps, and he cuts his own ears off, and he's found the next day just screaming about how he can still hear the music, and that's that story. So, this one didn't, I mean, I will admit, it messed me up, it scared me a little bit when I was younger, like, the first time I read it, for, like, a couple of days after, like, whenever I would hear piano music, I would be like, am I going crazy? And then I would be like, oh wait, I'm not an asshole who steals stuff, never mind. So I got over that very quickly. But it's a very good story, I think. It's a very strong first story. And Pascal and Marge are very, like, unsettled. They're like, oh, that's nice. So they leave. They head to the next room. But Declan is like, that's lame, I don't care. So they head to the next room, which is, full of, like, Egyptian artifacts and, like, really expensive-looking stuff. And Declan's like, hey, this is more like it, not like that worthless music stuff I can't steal. And Amicus is starting to, like, brew some tea for some reason. But Declan's like, hey, is that freaking Tusk's Tasty Tanis tea? That stuff was discontinued. Give me some of that, old man, I love that stuff. And Amicus is like, nuh-uh, it's not for you. And he, like, goes over, to the crate they were unloading, and they pulled the lid off of the giant crate, and it's a sarcophagus with, like, rubies set into the eyes. And Amicus, like, politely, like, knocks on, the sarcophagus, and he's like, oh, your tea is ready. And this giant mummified hand, like, reaches out from the sarcophagus and, like, takes the cup and pulls it in, and it, like, like, slurps it up. And Pascal and Marge are like, what the fuck? But Declan's like, hey, nice potty trick, old man. I'm not scared of you. And he's like, I'm gonna steal these ruby eyes, cause yeah, I can do that, yeah. And Amicus is like, I don't think you should do that, and I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you a story. And he tells him the story about how the sarcophagus got there, and also, the story behind the tea. So the story starts with, this explorer-adventurer guy named Colonel Tusk, and he's traveling through Egypt, and he's currently exploring a pyramid, that was recently unearthed. And he's accompanied by, like, his, like, little troop, and also, an Egyptian priest, and the priest guy, like, basically the whole time is like, hey, can you guys, like, not take our stuff, please? And Tusk is like, oh, nonsense, old man, it's all in the name of, progress, yes, haha. And they eventually find the sarcophagus, and Colonel Tusk is like, oh, this will make a fine addition to the museum, I'm going to sell this for, like, $1 million. And the priest, Bogal, I think that's how it's pronounced. I'm 99% sure. He's like, yeah, please can you not do that? Don't you have enough of our old pharaohs? Can you please not steal this shit from us? Please? And Colonel Tusk is like, nonsense. And then he knocks down a wall, against the wishes of, the priest guy again. And he's like, and behind the wall, there's, like, an insane amount of dried up leaves. And he's like, ooh, what is this? And he, like, smells it, and he's like, ooh, I'm gonna make tea out of this. Which is why I'm giving him a British voice. He's very British coded to me. I don't know if he actually is, but I don't care. And the priest guy's like, hey, those are Tanis leaves. They're like, really important to us. Can you please not make freaking tea out of them? And Colonel Tusk is like, fuck you, I don't care, I do what I want, I'm British. So he makes tea, again, against the wishes of this priest guy. And he's like, ooh, that's good stuff, that's the good stuff. And it's, like, really delicious and kind of addicting. And he ends up taking not only the sarcophagus, but, like, every single one of those leaves, with him when he leaves Egypt. And he's like, oh, I'm gonna make Starbucks with this. He doesn't literally say that, but that's basically what he does. He basically launches his own version of Starbucks, focused around this Tanis tea. And like, the mascot is, like, a cartoon version of the pharaoh, from that pyramid. And he becomes a bajillionaire, basically, overnight. And he sells the sarcophagus to a museum, and it stinks. But eventually, the priest guy, makes his way over there, and he's like, hey, so, do you think you could, like, return our our pharaoh, at least, because, like, you're kind of suck, dude. And can you stop selling this tea, please? Please? You already have, like, $1 million. Can you just stop? At least now, stop. And Tusk is like, oh, you're getting in the way of progress, I don't care. And then he kicks him out. And the priest is like, you know what, no more Mr. Nice Guy, fuck this. And he goes to the museum where the, mummy is being held. And he, like, invokes the curse to, like, bring it back to life, to go after the people who disrespected it, that being Colonel Tusk. So we cut to Colonel Tusk, in his little, like, library office, just, getting ready for bed. He's having his little tea, and he's in his robe, and he's just chilling, but then he sees something out the window, and he's like, oh, is that that priest guy who's trying to get me to close my business? Oh, go away, priest guy, I don't care about you. But it's the mummy, and it breaks through the window, and, like, makes its way inside, and, like, starts shuffling towards him. But Tusk is, like, he's a little unsettled, but he's not like, holy shit, it's a mummy, because he thinks that it's, the priest guy, like, pulling a prank on him. And he's like, oh, I'm not scared of you. Ah, back, I say. I'm going to sue you, because you broke my window. And he picks up a poker from the fireplace, and he, like, stabs it through the mummy's stomach. But the mummy doesn't flinch. It doesn't even, like, stop or hesitate or, like, look at him funny. It just keeps, like, moving towards him. And that's when Tusk is like, oh shit, this is, like, a real mummy. Like oh shit. And then he, like, goes insane, like, immediately. Like, his mind just, like, breaks. And he, like, and devolves into, like, sobbing in a corner. Like, laughing hysterically in a corner. And the mummy, it doesn't kill him, it just takes his tea and drinks it in front of him, and that's how the story ends. It's very funny. I think the tea mummy story is honestly, like, in my top 5 of, like, the Haunted Mansion stories, of, like, any of these books. It's so fun, dude. So, yeah. Back in, like, the real world, Marge and Pascal have dipped. They're scared shitless. They're done. So they took the last package and they left. They didn't leave the mansion. They left the Egypt room. So Declan and Amicus are still there by themselves. And Declan's like, I gotta hand it to you, old man. That was some story you cooked up to keep us from stealing your stuff. And he, like, pries out the rubies from the from the mummy's eyes. Not the mummy, the sarcophagus's eyes. And Amicus is like, hey, I literally just told you not to do that. What are you doing? But he says it in a, like, his elegant Amicus arcane way. I simply simplify for comedic effect, but he is very eloquent. And Declan, like, is like, you can't stop me, old man, I ain't scared of you, I know you're just faking it. And then Amicus is like, oh, okay, I guess I'm faking it. And then he pulls off his face. Like, you know that effect in Beetlejuice where, Barbara is, like, hanging in the closet and she pulls her face off? That's literally what Amicus does to Declan. Just, like, casually. Like, not even, like, out of wrath or anything. He's just like, okay, you think I'm faking it? Okay, here. And Declan, like, he, like, freaks out. He's like, whoa, what the fuck? And he, like, runs out of the room. And he, like, runs through, like, the whole mansion. And he, like, gets to the attic where he's, like, about to hide. But then Constance, like, tries to cut his head off, and he's like, oh no! So he leaves the attic as quickly as he can, and he ends up in the library. But somehow, as soon as he's about to leave, the doors and windows are gone, so he's just surrounded by books, so his only way out is to read. And he's like, oh fuck. and he spots the book that Amicus had been reading to them, and he knows what he has to do. He turns to the last page of the mummy story, and he rereads Colonel Tusk's demise. Well, not really demise, because he didn't die, but you know what I mean. And just as he does that, the mummy shows up and kills him for stealing its rubies. And then we cut back to Marge and Pascal, who are, like, freaking out, like, I don't want to do this anymore. And then Amicus catches up to them. He's like, hey, guys. And they're like, I don't want to do this anymore. And he's like, can you unload this last package? And they're like, fine. And it's this giant door with, like, a snake for a handle that's, like, breathing. And they're like, oh, what is this? What is this? And Amicus is like, oh, you want to know? Here, I'm gonna tell you another story. While you install that door for me. So he tells them about the door. And it belonged to, this teenage girl. And it was made by her dad as, like, a I'm sorry present after he chopped down a tree. But it wasn't just, like, a regular tree. So the girl had, like, stumbled upon, this giant tree in the middle of the woods on a walk one night. And there were, like, these three other girls, they're kind of, like, having, a ceremony around it. And they were like, this is a very sacred tree to us. It's where they used to hang witches back in the day. But then, the girl's dad found out about it, and since he was a carpenter, and he's like, ooh, that's a really good tree, that's got some good wood on it, I'm gonna chop it down and make it into some furniture, that'll make a lot of money, holy shit, that's some good wood. But the girl's like, hey, can you not? And he's like, well, yeah, honey, but I gotta, it's for business and money. But as he's chopping down the tree, it's affecting one of the other girls who was, like, worshipping it. And every blow that he makes to the tree, it seems like it's affecting her too. And she ends up dying when the tree falls. And, the little girl's like, you killed her, Dad! What the fuck? And he's like, I didn't kill anybody, I chopped down a tree! So they call an ambulance, and the girl's dead. And, the little girl's very distraught. And the dad is like, he's like kind of trying to, like, make it up to her. Like, he doesn't believe that he killed that girl, understandably, because he doesn't believe in, like, magic or anything. But he is upset that he's made his daughter upset. So, to try and make it up to her, he takes the wood from the tree he chopped down, and he, like, makes it into this beautiful door. And he, like, installs it in her room, like, on her closet door. And he's like, ta-da! And she's like, Dad, what the fuck? Is that from the tree? And he's like, well, yeah. Because I thought it would make you feel better. And she's like, fuck you, Dad. And she's like very upset about it. And he's like, I don't know what to do with you. I don't fucking know. But that night, when the girl goes to bed, she hears breathing in her room. So she's like, what is that? So she goes over to the door, and it's breathing. So she opens it, and it opens out into the woods where the tree was, but it's not in the modern day, it's in, like, the 1600s. And she's like, what is this? And she stumbles upon a different coven from, like, the nice, nature girls that she met before. Instead, it's a coven of, like, evil witches. And they're like, where is the woodcutter who cut down our tree? And the girl's like, oh, that's my dad. And she's like, we're going to kill you. Bring us your dad. So we can feast upon his flesh. And the girl's like, I'm not letting you feast upon the flesh of my dad. What are you talking about? And they're like, bring him here tonight, or we'll come and eat your toes or whatever. So the girl leaves. And, like, all next day, she's, like, studying witches, and specifically, like, that tree, that was cut down. so that she can be prepared. So that night she goes back through the door, and she goes to the witches again, and they're like, where's your father? We're going to eat him. And she's like, I'm not bringing you my dad, you're gonna have to eat me instead. And they're like, wow, really? Okay. So they put her in the pot of boiling soup, and they start to cook her, but she isn't in there long before they hear like a and they look over, and it's her dad coming in with a chainsaw, and he's like, get away from my daughter. But the witches are like, you have no power here. And they like, and he's like, oh shit, yeah, I guess I can't fight a bunch of witches with a chainsaw. And he's like, okay, well, I'm the one you want, so you put me in that pot instead, and you let my daughter go. And they're like, okay. So they do. They take the girl out of the pot, and they put the dad in. And for some reason that, what happens after, like, kind of always makes me, like, a little, like, choked up when I read it. And I'm not sure why. It's basically just, the daughter being like, Dad, what are you doing? You can't do that. And, the dad's like, this is what dads do. They protect their kids. And I'm sorry I wasn't a good dad. Whatever. I love you. You get out of here now. I'll be fine. And so the girl's, like, about to leave, like, all hope is lost, she doesn't know what to do. And then she sees her dad's chainsaw, and she's like, you know what, fuck it. And she picks up his chainsaw, and she hacks through all the witches. She friggin' chainsaws them all to death. And then she and her dad leave. And they take down the door, and they ship it off to the haunted mansion. Which is so badass, dude. And that's how that story ends. And by this point, Pascal and Marge are like, we've had enough. So they're running around the mansion, so they're, like, holding hands, like, running around the mansion, trying to get out. But Amicus, like, manifests in front of them, and he's like, wait, you can't leave yet. And they're like, we want to leave, please don't kill us. And he's like, what? No, I'm not gonna kill you. You can't leave because I haven't paid you yet. And they're like, oh yeah. So he gives them their check, and then they leave. As soon as they're like, hey, wait a second, where's Declan? They look out the rearview mirror of the van, and they see Declan's ghost just, like, standing at the gate, like, bye guys. And then they drive off really fast. And they actually end up, getting married, and, like, bonding, and, like, it's really sweet. I love them. They're really cute. And I'm happy that they got a happy ending. And yeah, if you're gonna read any book, like, if you're not ready to commit to, like, a whole series, but you want to check it out, I would recommend the third book, because, as I said before, you don't have to have read the other books to understand, like, who the characters are. Like, these are, like, new characters, except for Amicus, but you'll get his deal immediately. Like, you don't really need an introduction to him. Like, he's very easy to understand. And yeah, easily, this is either my favorite book of the books or my second favorite. It, like, bounces between this one and the second one, depending on my mood. So I know that I said that the third book was very different from the others, but the fourth book is actually, like, I'm not sure if it's more different or, like, about the same level of being different. It does still have the fearsome foursome through line. It still is part of, like, the overarching plot, I guess. But the strange thing about it is that it opens with Amicus giving us a message. Well, all the books start with Amicus, like, talking directly to the reader, like, giving his own, like, little thoughts. The books are very Lemony Snicket coded, actually, but like in a more playful way, where Lemony Snicket is like, don't read these books, you will be miserable forever. Amicus is like, hey, you want to be miserable forever? You should read these books, they're sick. Yeah, it's like Lemony Snicket style writing, but like Infant Adams was writing it. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. So Amicus's message in the 4th book, instead of just like giving you like, ooh, this book is gonna be so spooky, welcome back to the mansion, it's like instead he says, so, guess what, I'm retiring, it's only been like 200, 300 years, but now I'm retiring, I don't know how you retire from a ghost retirement home, but whatever. And he's like, yeah, I'm retiring, so I gotta find a replacement stat. He has to find a replacement librarian for himself. And then the book opens, not at the mansion, and not with our protagonist for the book. It opens with, a rookie cop sitting in his car, keeping an eye on, the road at night for, like, drunk drivers or, like, people speeding. And the road he's on is basically like a hazing ritual for the local precinct. It's Route 13, which is the road to the mansion. And basically, if you can last the night, if you can last, like, the entire night shift on that road, then you'll be a good cop. So he's, like, doing his best. He's, like, kind of unsettled, but he's like, whatever, it's just a road, who cares? So he, like, pulls out a book, that's basically, the first book in this series, The Fearsome Foursome, but instead of The Fearsome Foursome, it's some other title, like the, Ghostly Quartet or whatever. I don't remember the exact phony title they gave it, but it's written by this lady named Prudence Pock. And nobody really knows what happened to her, but she stopped being as popular. Like, for a while, she was, like, the face of horror, but eventually she just kind of disappeared. But then, while the rookie cop is reading, he, like, hears, like, somebody crying outside. So he's like, oh shit, I guess I gotta leave the car. And it's, like, pitch black, like, you can't even see, like, if you held out your hand, you couldn't even see it. That's how dark it is. So he goes out with his flashlight, and he's like, hey, do you need any help? And he doesn't see anything. And he's like, and eventually the crying stops. He's like, okay. So he goes back to his car, and just as he's about to start reading, he looks in the rear view mirror, and Prudence Pock is just sitting in the back seat of his car, like, hello, can you take me to the hospital? And he's like, whoa, what the fuck? And he, like, freaks out. And then it cuts to an unspecified amount of time in the future. And now we're at an asylum. I believe it's called Shepperton. Actually, I'm gonna double check. Yes, I was correct. It is Shepperton Sanatorium. And we meet Dr. Ackerman, who has come to check on a new patient. And he meets up with one of the workers there named Coates, who's like described as looking kind of weird, a little off-putting, but we'll get to him in a minute. For now, let's just focus on Dr. Ackerman. He is walking through the asylum, and he sees some of the characters from the last book. We get to see Colonel Tusk in a padded cell, like, screaming about it being tea time or whatever. And eventually they make their way to, like, one of the darker rooms, where Prudence Pock is being held. and she's just in the middle of the room, sitting on a stool, writing something down. But she doesn't have any paper or like a pen or anything. She's just writing on air with air. So Dr. Ackerman goes into the room with her, and he's like, "Oh, hello, Prudence. How you doing?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm wonderful, Dr. Ackerman. Can I tell you do you want to hear what I've been writing recently?" And he's like, "Okay." And so in this book, instead of Amicus being our storyteller, it's Miss Prudence Pock, which is unusual. So throughout the books, in all the books, Amicus would, like, pipe up in the middle of the story, just, like, scattered throughout whatever he was talking about, to, like, give his 2 cents, his thoughts, his little commentary. And when Prudence is telling the stories, he'll, like, occasionally stop to say, like, "Ooh, she's so good. Ooh, she's so good at stories. Ooh, she's so cool." And he clearly has a lot of love and respect for her, which is why I kind of ship them a little bit, but that doesn't really matter. But yeah, so Prudence begins to tell her first story, and the first story is actually about Prudence herself and how she was, like, struggling to get relevance back. For her writing. Her writing hadn't really slipped much, but she just hit writer's block, like, really badly, and people eventually forgot about her. So she was sitting kind of all alone at a book signing with pretty much no one really showing any interest. The only people that showed up were, like, people who were gonna sell their copies after they were signed. But then she hears a little girl's voice, like, "I'm your biggest fan," and like a tink-link-link, like a charm bracelet. A charm bracelet, that sounds familiar, huh? So Prudence looks up, and there's no little girl, but there is a little black envelope with a seal on it, and she opens it up, and it's an invitation to a party at the Haunted Mansion. And it's signed Amicus Arcane, and that, like, sends a shiver down her spine. She's like, "Ooh, Amicus Arcane? The Amicus Arcane? I thought that guy was dead, like, 1,000,000 years ago." So, very curious about, how a dead guy is sending her a letter. She ends up going, and she's taken there in a carriage hearse. I don't know if there's, like, a more proper term for that, but yeah, a carriage that takes care of dead bodies. And she's like, "Oh, this is so exciting, wow." But then they get to the mansion, and she realizes that there's actually ghosts, and she's like, "Oh my word, I have to leave. Nope. There's been a mistake. I am not dead. I don't belong here. Nope, I'm leaving. Goodbye, thank you." And she meets the Fearsome Foursome, and Will is like, "Wow, I'm your biggest fan." And Prudence is like, "That's nice, dear. I'm gonna go now." But she isn't able to leave. But then her story is interrupted by a terrible screaming noise. Ah! And Dr. Ackerman's like, "What is that noise?" And Prudence is like, "Oh, that's just the guy next door. He has a terrible, sad story. Do you want to know about it?" And Dr. Ackerman's like, "How do you know his story? Like, did you look over his files?" And she's like, "No, that's lame. I just know it. I'm omniscient, bitch." And then she tells him the story of the guy next door. And it starts out with this girl named Shelley, who is very, very smart, but also kind of an outcast because she's very, very smart, but also not very good with social situations. But one day, she gets in trouble at school for reviving a frog with her phone battery. And on her way walking home from school after getting detention for that, even I don't know why you would get detention for that. I don't think there's any rules against bringing a frog back to life, but whatever. Anyway, she's walking home from detention, and she almost gets run over by a kid on his bike. And it's one of her old childhood friends that she kind of lost contact with. And they reconnect, and it's incredibly cute. They get an acai bowl together. I hope I said that right. I probably didn't, whatever. Yeah, they go on a little date, and it's really cute. And it's just very sweet. It's very wholesome. But then he dies. He gets run over by a car. While he's on his bike. And, the kid's mom shows up, and she's like, "Oh, Shelly, thank goodness. You know how to bring things back from the dead, right? Can you bring my kids back from the dead?" Because not only did that boy end up getting run over by a car, before that, his brother had died too. And they were trying to bring him back to life, and they had invited Shelly over to help, because she actually knows how to bring things back from the dead. But it didn't end up working. But now this guy's dead too. And she's completely distraught. But the next time she goes to school, she sees the corpse, of the first brother, the older one, who they were trying to bring back originally. And he shuffles into the classroom, and nobody really, freaks out about there being a zombie, basically. They're just like, "Ooh, that's one ugly kid." And Shelly's like, "What? How is that working?" And apparently the way that the mom got it to work was by replacing, his old, fried up brain with the fresher brain of her other son, the one who was in love with Shelly. And for a while, things actually go really well. Shelly and Zombie Boy end up being, a really cute couple, and they, go on dates, and they're, really wholesome, and it's really cute, and I love them. But then they go to, middle school prom, or whatever the equivalent to that is. They go to a dance, and they're dancing around, they're having a great time, but then Shelly accidentally bumps into somebody, and it starts, a whole big fight, and the kid, that she bumped into, starts shoving her around, but Zombie Boy is not having that, and he, punches him, and that starts an angry mob going after him, so he and Shelly are trying to escape on her bike, but they're just not quite fast enough because he's really heavy, so he's weighing her down. So he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna sacrifice myself, you go." And she's like, "I don't want to leave, I can't lose you again." But he insists, so she, tearfully, lets him get off of her bike, and he gives her a push, with his, super strength to get her super far away, quicker, away from the mob. But as he's about to, die, knowing that he did the right thing, peacefully, get as peacefully as you can be torn apart by an angry mob, everyone hears a horrible crash, and they turn around, and Shelly got hit by a car, and she's dead. And that's basically how the story ends. They drag the poor zombie kid to the asylum, where he's just been grieving, alone this entire time, and it's horrible. This one makes me cry every time. It's really well written, but it's so fucking sad, dude. I think this is one of the more accurate Frankenstein adaptations because it's sad, and it's not scary, it's just sad as fuck, dude, and it makes me feel bad. But after that, Dr. Ackerman's like, "That's nice. I don't believe you. I think you're just kind of fucking crazy." And she's like, "Ooh, you want to know freaking crazy? Here's another story for you." And she starts telling him, about this kid who was Yeah, about this little asshole kid, and his 3 friends, and they went on a field trip to this giant lighthouse that's shaped like a pirate, and they're being given a tour, and the tour guide's like telling a really cool story about Captain Gore, and how he had like a crab claw for one hand, and after his crew all buried the treasure, he would chop off their heads with his claw hand so that they couldn't come back and steal it from him. And all the other kids in the class are like, "Oh, that's so cool," but asshole kid's like, "That's really lame, actually." And he makes like fake fart noises, and he's just really disrespectful. Until the tour guide says something that piques his interest, which is that the treasure is supposedly buried in one of the caves along the shore of this very beach. So he's like, "Ooh, I want me some treasure." But the tour ends up getting cut short because of like a horrible storm that's coming outside, so they can't go up to the top of the lighthouse like they wanted to. But asshole kid's an asshole, and he convinces his friends to like watch the stairs so that he can go up by himself. And when he does, he like starts like taking videos and selfies. But then like a huge gust of wind comes, and like in the middle of the storm, and he like gets blown off of like the roof. And as he's like holding on to like the railing for dear life, he sees something like on the ocean, and it's a pirate ship, and it lands on the beach, and out comes Captain Gore with his crew, and they go into a cave, and he sees exactly which cave it is. And then only Captain Gore comes out of the cave, and then he sails back off. And he ends up passing out. And when he comes to, his friends and like the teacher and everybody are like freaking out, like, "Whoa, are you okay? Are you alive?" And he's like, "Dude, I know where the treasure's buried. I'm gonna go get it." So he goes back home and he dedicates his time to like doing research and stuff, on how he saw all that. And apparently it's like, some ghost shenanigans. I mean, obviously, how else would you see a pirate crew from like 1,000,000 years ago that all died? So afterwards, he convinces his friends again to come, like, watch his back while he goes to get the treasure. So they do. Even though the beach is closed for the storm, they all sneak out there. And his friends are genuinely, like, really nice kids. But they also let him completely walk all over them. So, the kids are, like, watching the entrance to the cave, and they're like, "I really don't think you should go in there, dude. It's really tight, and, like, the tide's coming in because of the storm." And he's like, "Shut up, I'm fine." So he, like, crawls on his belly, like, through this tight little crevice, and I hate it, because freaking caves are gross, dude. I fucking hate caves. Anyway, he, like, manages to squirm into the cave, but while he's doing that, his friends are caught by the lighthouse keeper who was giving the tour. He's like, "You guys better come inside. The storm's gonna get really bad. You guys are probably gonna die if you stay out here." So he takes them into the lighthouse. And they're like, "Hey, can we go back for our friend? We're really worried about him." And he's like, "Oh, don't worry about your friend. You should be worried about yourselves." And they're like, "Oh, yeah, wait, what do you mean? What do you mean by that?" And he turns around, and he's got a crab claw for a hand, and whoopsies, he's Captain Gore. He's Captain Gore's ghost, and he cuts their heads off, and they're dead. And like, they describe it, because, like, the lighthouse is shaped like a pirate, so it's described as their blood, like, leaks out of the windows of his eyes, so it looks like the giant pirate is crying blood, which is cool as fuck. So anyway, back in the crevasse, back in the cave, asshole kid, like, manages to squirm into, like, the larger part of the cave. And he's like, "Oh, cool, I'm gonna get the treasure," but he doesn't. Instead, he's met with Captain Gore. And he's like, oh shit. So he tries to crawl back out of the cave, but the entrance is gone. And, he gets killed by Captain Gore's ghost. Just snip, chopped his head off. And that's how he dies. And that's how the story ends. And Dr. Ackerman, back in the real world, is like, yeah, that's a cute story, lady. You're crazy. I don't care. And Prudence is like, oh, you really don't believe me? Okay. Well, why don't you go to the cemetery and you'll find out that these people actually are dead? And he's like, maybe I will. So he takes a break and goes to the cemetery to, like, check if she's actually telling the truth. He doesn't believe her at all, but he's like, I might as well look. It'll be funny. I'll amuse myself. But at the cemetery, he finds the graves of everyone that she said died, and on the epitaphs is, like, descriptions of how they died. And instead of being convinced, he's just like, okay, so the crazy old lady must have just, like, figured out, must have just, like, she must have just seen these graves and then taken the epitaphs as inspiration to write little ghost stories. It's not that big a deal. So just as he's about to leave and go back to the sanatorium to be like, haha, you're a liar, he sees a grave that catches his eye, and it's for Prudence Pock. And he's like, what the fuck? So he rushes back to the sanatorium and he's like, hey, you cannot possibly be Prudence Pock because she's dead. And Prudence Pock's like, oh, really? Well, let me tell you your story. And he's like, uh-huh. And she's like, yeah, you know all about me being dead, don't you, Buster? And he's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And she's like, I'm sure you don't. Well, let me refresh your memory. So she starts telling the story of how she died. So it picks up right where the beginning of the book, right where her first story began, with her at the book signing, having just gotten the little invitation to the mansion. And she's about to go to her car to go home, when she gets stopped by Dr. Ackerman in casual clothes, not in, like, his doctor outfit. He's just there, and he's like, oh, did I miss the book signing? And she's like, oh my gosh, you're Dr. Ackerman, the famous psychiatrist. And he's like, well, you're Prudence Pock, the famous horror writer. I'm your biggest fan, I love your books. And she's like, oh my gosh, that's amazing, because at this point in her life, she's feeling really, really low, because, again, nobody cares about her anymore. Because she's had writer's block, so she hasn't been able to make anything new. And Dr. Ackerman's like, hey, so this is crazy, but do you want to, like, come to my house? I have, like, a huge collection of, like, horror stuff. Like, I have, like, original, like, Edgar Allan Poe prints and, like, just a bunch of cool stuff. You want to come check it out? And she's like, boy, would I? So she goes with him, which is not a very smart decision, but I can understand it. Because, like, he's a world-famous scientist. You wouldn't think that he's gonna do the things that he ends up doing. So she goes to his house, and they, like, share some tea, and they have a great time, like, talking about, like, Edgar Allan Poe and, like, their other favorite horror authors. And when Prudence is about to leave, he's like, oh, no, you can't leave yet. And she's like, why not? And he's like, I have to show you my museum. And she's like, I thought I already saw all your stuff. And he's like, no. You have to see the museum. And he, like, opens, like, a secret door that leads down into, like, a cellar. And she's like, ooh, okay. So she goes with him down there. And it's, like, this huge dungeon-like area. But instead of, like, bars on, like... It's like a medieval dungeon, but instead of, like, bars, it's, like, glass, so you can see in it perfectly. And it's, like, skeletons in, like, various different, like, horrific, death poses. All of which are, like, inspired by Edgar Allan Poe stories. Like, The Pit and the Pendulum is one specifically that comes to mind that they show. And Prudence at this point is like, oh, wow, that's crazy. And they end up going to the last room, in the hall, And Dr. Ackerman's like, yeah, it is really crazy, isn't it? And she's like, yeah, I mean, how'd you, like, afford all, like, these fake skeletons? And he's like, oh, fake. Huh. No, they're real. And she's like, yeah, I do this to my patients that I don't like. I like the lost causes that nobody will remember. I bring them here and they add them to my museum. And she's like, excuse me? And then he closes the door behind her, so she's locked in this, like, cell, and she's like, oh fuck, what do I do? And he's like, yeah, I'll let you out after you write a new story for me. And she's like, but I have writer's block. And he's like, too bad. And he, like, seals her in with bricks. And he's like, I'll be back to check on you in the morning, and he leaves. So she's trapped in there, with a limited air supply, no food, no water, no nothing. And the only things that she has are a writing desk, a huge stack of paper, and a pen. So she's like, oh crap, I'm gonna die. But she stops panicking after a minute, and she's like, you know what? I'm gonna die. Okay. I know exactly what I'm gonna do. So she sits down and starts writing. And, a few days later, Dr. Ackerman comes down to, see what she wrote, because he knows that she's dead. He was always planning to kill her. Like, he was gonna have her write, the new book, and then he was gonna, like, let her rot in there and add her to his collection of artifacts. So he goes down there with a sledgehammer, and he, like, knocks down the wall that he put in front of the door. And he goes in, and he's like, Prudence, dear, I've come to see your writings. But he's met with, the papers all say the same thing. Instead of, like, a story that he was hoping for, it's all just 2 words. Memento mori, which in Latin means remember death, or remember you will die. And he's like, this is lame as fuck, and he's really frustrated. But then he hears, like, a scratching noise, like a pen writing on something, and he looks over, and the pen is still writing Memento Mori on, like, every freaking surface, and he's like, what? And he, like, is about to leave, when he realizes that the wall he had just beaten down is being put back up, and he's trapped in there, with Prudence Pock's ghost being tortured until he dies. But he doesn't die yet. Because back in the real world, Prudence Pock finishes telling him that story, and she's like, do you remember now, Doctor? Do you remember how you fucking killed me? And he's, like, gone insane again. And it turns out that they are in a padded cell in Shepperton Sanatorium, but it's not Prudence Pock's cell, it's Dr. Ackerman's. And he was never actually free in the first place, and she had been torturing him for years. Every year she would come back at the same time, on the same day, to remind him of what he did to her, and countless other people. And then she closes the book, and she turns back to Coates, the employee, who is actually Amicus Arcane, who, like, left the mansion for the first time in this series just to help her fuck with this guy. And he's like, dude, you're so cool. That was awesome. And she's like, oh, thank you. You're awesome too. So they go back to the mansion together, to pick out who, will take over for Amicus after he retires from being the librarian. And, like, literally, like, every ghost in the mansion is there, and it's not just every ghost in the mansion, it's, like, ghosts from around the world, like, including the ghost of Edgar Allan Poe. And do you want to guess who Amicus picks to succeed him? It's Prudence Pock. No way anybody could have guessed that. But the actual surprise is that Prudence Pock says, nah, I'm good. And Amicus is, like, kind of caught off guard for, like, basically the first time, where she's like, excuse me? And she's like, yeah, I kind of want to enjoy my afterlife for a bit before I settle down with a job. I want to be free to keep torturing that asshole who killed me. And Amicus is like, you know what? I respect that. That's really cool. But then all the other ghosts are freaking out, like, wait, who's gonna be the librarian then? We need a librarian. And Prudence Box like, oh, I know exactly who should be. And Prudence Box like, oh, I know exactly who's gonna take over. And then Amicus is like, oh, who? And she like kind of whispers in his ear, and he's like, oh, girl, obvious. That's so obvious. Why didn't I think of that? And they turn to Willa, and they're like, hey, Willa, you want to be the librarian? And she's like, no way! So Amicus takes the little carnation from his lapel, and he, like, puts it in her hair. I guess the lapel, not the lapel, goodness gracious. The carnation is, like, the sign that you're the librarian. It's like a passing of the torch. And he's like, you're really awesome, and you're gonna do a great job. And she's like, wow, thanks, Dad. I mean, Amicus. And it ends with like an awesome party, and everyone's happy, and it's awesome. And the end. That's the end of the series. Amicus retires, and now the fearsome foursome from the first book are in charge of telling the stories and keeping them alive. And it's really awesome. So now I would like to turn my attention to the librarian himself, Amicus Arcane, who in my opinion is the best Haunted Mansion character ever. Including, like, even, like, the beloved ones like Constance and even Madame Leota. They're really cool, but Amicus Arcane is the coolest ever, in my opinion. I adore him. He's one of my favorite characters, not just in the Haunted Mansion, but of all time. He's one of my favorite characters in anything, ever. And now I'm gonna share... if you hear paper rustling, it's because I wrote down a lot of thoughts I have about him. Sorry if it's annoying. But I'm gonna read out some of, my things about him. Amicus Arcane is the mansion's librarian. He has always been the librarian. He's also my favorite Haunted Mansion character, and is one of my favorite characters in all of fiction. He is the Haunted Mansion. He is absolutely delightful in how much he loves telling stories in any medium. He prefers books, of course, but he's also passionate about movies and is open to the idea of comics when he's told about them. He has a dark sense of humor, but he's not cruel. He's not evil, he's just very spooky with a love for the macabre. He's an Addams, basically. If the Addams family existed in the Haunted Mansion universe, then I can almost guarantee that he's related to them in some way. Deduction leads me to believe that he likely died before Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, because he comments about how he's met Lincoln, and how the president complimented his work, and he asks the kids if he's still in office on page 26 in the first book. He also says that he has always been the librarian. Like, every time that he introduces himself, he goes, I am the librarian. I have always been the librarian. Which is a tiny bit confusing, because in the third book it's mentioned that the mansion has potentially been around since America's discovery. He could have been apprenticed as a librarian since he was, like, born, I guess, but even then he would have had to have been at least 100 years old to have met Lincoln. But it doesn't really matter, I guess, since the Haunted Mansion has no concrete origin. It's just kind of fun to think about things. Anyway, another really weird thing about him is how he's drawn differently in each book, despite all of them having the same illustrator, Kelly Jones. His head shape changes constantly, and so does his hair, his clothes, his hair color, his face. Like, I don't know if it's intentional, or if it's just an inconsistent art style, but it's always kind of... It's a little nitpicky, coming from me especially, who is also pretty inconsistent. It just kind of bugs me a little bit. But, how I'm drawing him now is how I kind of picture him, like smushing together my favorite parts of, each of his designs. The worst depiction of him that I've ever seen, though, is how they depicted him for the Ghost Jars merch. He looks nothing he doesn't even have, like, the same vibe. Amicus Arcane is a very elegant and unbothered man, but in the merch, he looks like a very wimpy, like, little dork. Like, this guy wouldn't intimidate anyone. Like, I don't know who designed this merch, but they did not read the book. I guarantee it. It's, like, I don't know. It's just, ow. It's just kind of crazy to me. I know it seems like kind of a silly thing to get upset about, but, like, you gotta understand, this is one of my favorite characters in fiction, and there's no fandom, so there's no fan art or anything. So the only content outside of the books is that freaking jar that I hate. It's just frustrating. Anyway, he's also a father figure, as I've kind of alluded to while relaying the stories, specifically to Camille and Willa. Camille is one of the very few times where he doesn't really joke about someone's death. He's very gentle with her, and he gets extremely angry when William insinuates that he hurt her. And, as I've mentioned already, it's one of the only times, if not the only time, when when his facade kind of cracks a little bit and he shows some emotion outside of just like, yes, the mansion. And Willa is a lot less subtle. As I said, in the final book, he literally has her take over his role, and when he retires, and he looks at her with fatherly affection. Bro's a girl dad, and I love that for him. Oh yeah, and I have very mixed thoughts on his retirement at the end. Personally, I didn't really like that, but him passing the torch to Willa was very cute, so that made up for it. I do wonder what he's up to, though. Like, how can one retire from a retirement home? You know what I mean? Anyway, I absolutely adore this guy, and I really like him and Prudence, and I think they could kiss one day, maybe. But that's just me. I love him, and he is like the personification of the Haunted Mansion, and dude, he's just so cool. I can't really do him justice, I don't think. I hope I have, in some regard, but dude, you gotta read the books. It's so fun, and Amicus Arcane, if the books didn't have Amicus Arcane, they would still be good, because the stories are still fun. But he just, like, adds so much spice to it, you know? He just adds so much flavor. Like, he feels very real, he feels alive. Ironically, because, you know, he's a freaking ghost and he's dead. But yeah, I love him. He's one of my favorite characters in anything ever. He is an Adams in my mind, and he's just awesome. And if they ever make like a screen adaptation of these books, which I doubt they will, but in my ideal perfect world, it would be made by the team that made the Series of Unfortunate Events TV show for Netflix. Because to me, they've always had like a very similar vibe. These are just like more playful in their writing style. And who would I want to play Amicus? I think Willem Dafoe has like the face for it, but I don't think he has the voice. Personally, because so Amicus and the Ghost Host are different people, but I've always kind of pictured Amicus with the Ghost Host's voice. Like, when I read the books out loud, like, that's the voice I use. But I can't really think of an actor who has that voice. So yeah, if it was live action, Willem Dafoe for sure, and then if it was animated, which is ideal, I'm not sure who I would want, but somebody who sounds like, the Ghost Host would be my dream scenario. Anyway, yeah, those are all my thoughts. well, that's the end of the video and the end of my Haunted Mansion series, at least for now, until they make some other adaptation. But for now, I have talked about every adaptation of the Haunted Mansion, at least that I'm aware of. And I had so much freaking fun, dude. This video was a little bit stressful because it ended up being way too long, but I don't care. I had fun anyway. Even if the process was a little stressful, it was still really fun, and I'm happy with these videos, and I hope that you enjoyed them too. If you did like the video, please leave a like, it would mean a lot to me, and subscribe if you would like to. And also, I currently have a poll up right now to decide what my Halloween special will be, so go vote on that if you're interested at all. And I think that's about it. I hope you have a great night, day, or whatever time it is where you are. Cheers!